Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of Friday, September 19th. Well, happy Friday, everybody. We made it through another week, and it looks like a great weekend ahead. It's been pretty busy here at the shop, so we got a lot to talk about, and let's just get right into it. Somebody called me and asked me to promote this group, Accessibility Wisconsin. I've talked about them before, but they are a great group. They're raising money to buy these off-road wheelchairs, and they have a goal to get a wheelchair in every county in the state, at least one wheelchair in every county in the state. They have several locations already. You can go on their website here and reserve a chair if you know somebody that is differently abled and would like to take advantage of their service. There's no cost to rent the chair or reserve the chair, I guess. And yeah, so you can go on their website, accessibilitywi.org, and check that out. They had a fundraiser last week out at Black Hawk Lake. I wish I'd have known about it. I could have promoted it, but yeah, they're doing a great work out there. Even if you don't have any need to take advantage of their services, go on their website and click on the donate tab here and yeah, help them out. They can use all the money they get because, you know, literally everybody deserves access to the outdoors, and these folks are making it happen, and I applaud that. The Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies, I was asked to promote this event, is doing a couple screenings of a movie called Mother, Sisterhood in the Wild. This is a documentary film about a group of BIPOC women who head out into the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge and kind of, you know, connect with nature, talk about their childhoods and what nature means to them. And it's supposed to be a great film. It's won a ton of awards and should be pretty cool. They're doing a screening Sunday, September 28th, out at the Lucier Family Heritage Center, and that's out there at Lake Farm Park. So that's Sunday, September 28th. And then on the 29th, on Monday, they're doing another screening down at Union South down there from 6:30 to 8:15. These events are free, and they got a little panel talk, I think, with the director afterwards. So yeah, it should be a cool event, and happy to promote stuff like that. As far as shop news goes, what do we got? I took my friggin' frogging time photo down because we are almost out of frogs, but it is still frogging time, and we'll talk about that later too. Otherwise, still some strong weed edges out there, still a lot of bluegills. We'll be talking about the Gene rig and the Monona rig and how those are super effective around the chain. And then we have salmon beads. So it's salmon season is here. They aren't quite running up the rivers yet, but they're definitely in the harbors, and we'll talk about that later on in the report. But just wanted to showcase I got a fresh crop of beads in. I got pegs and floats. I also carry this is a new product, at least to me, to the store. Maybe it's new by Z-Man, but they of course have this Elastec technology, super strong plastics that are basically indestructible. But they started making some salmon eggs. So these aren't a bead. It's like a soft plastic that you can put on a hook, but they're super durable, and I'm very interested to see how these work. So swing in and maybe try them out. They're, you know, of course, soft and feel like an egg in your hand. So yeah, come in and check that out. Last few weeks I haven't had anything on the door, and then all this last week I got a bunch of posters. So the Lakeview Library, or I mean Lakeview Church up the street here is doing a blood drive on the September 30th. This is a group that I'm been involved with for a very long time, bringing skate parks to Madison. We've got a project we're working on over in Elvium Park, sort of on the east side there. Swing in and scan the QR code or talk to me. I can tell you how you can help out. And then I got a poster here for this. This is a event, Read to a Dog event over at the Lakeview Library. And when I first heard of it, I was like, who's reading to dogs? But apparently what this is a bunch of service dogs that they bring in. And then this is for kids who maybe might feel a little intimidated reading in front of an adult. And kids love dogs, and these dogs are obviously well-behaved service dogs. And so they'll snuggle up on your lap and listen to you read a story to them. And this is good for kids that might be intimidated, learning to read, and it kind of helps them open up. So sounds like a cool event, and that's Saturday, October 4th, 1 to 3, right over here at the Lakeview Library here on the north side. I think that does it for announcements. We don't have any tournaments scheduled on the Madison Chain this weekend, at least none that I saw on the DNR website, so that's good. It was hot this last week, though, with temps in the 80s every day, sunny and calm conditions. I've had the algae popping off. That's really going to be the theme of this report, is talking about algae. It looks like some cooler temps in the forecast this weekend, with temps in the 70s, with a slight chance of rain, but that might help the algae situation some, but I guess we'll see about that. The Mendota buoy, let's see, what's she at right now? She was 67, yes, or I'm sorry, 72 degrees, 72 and a half degrees this morning. So that's up 6 degrees from last week, which is the opposite direction for where we want to be going this time of year. But knock on wood here. Hopefully the hot weather's behind us, and we can get into a good cool down stretch here. But as far as water quality goes, I don't have the Dane County website anymore. And, I don't like to discourage anyone from fishing, but all I hear about these days is the algae. Clarity-wise, Mendota is in the best shape on the chain, but has been brownish all week, like kind of a brownish tint to it. That's that same brown algae we saw bloom in the spring. The rest of the chain is, from what I hear, pretty green to disgustingly green. Depending on where you're at. Shallow bays and inlets are the worst. It sounds like if you can stay on like the non-wind-blown side of a lake, you can find somewhat better conditions. Deeper water too tends to be a little bit better, but it's just that we've had this last week plus of hot, dry, and calm conditions, perfect for blooms to pop off. And keep in mind though that it's not all doom and gloom. These blooms just hang out on the top 1 to 2 feet of the surface, and the water beneath them is fine. And people are still definitely catching fish. It just might make it a little kind of gross to sit out there, I guess. Generally, though, with this heat, I feel like we're kind of jumped back to July or August, and I'm not sure if the fish are in a bad mood or if the anglers just aren't getting out. Probably a little bit of both, I guess, but the few reports I've heard have been not great, and almost everyone's complaining about the algae. The good news is it does look like cooler weather's on the way, and we'll be looking at some of the best fishing of the year here pretty soon, just around the corner. So algae blooms aside, on the game fish side of things, we are starting to see the transition from crawlers to minnows, with our large fathead minnows and especially black-tailed chubs working well for smallmouth and walleye. Although the weeds are starting to die back, they're still pretty thick in many shallow areas, and the algae blooms in those same shallow areas can make things a little difficult. But if you can find decently clear water with pockets in the weeds or places where the weed cutters have been through, you can still find fish from shore. If you're in a boat, though, I'd start on an outside weed edge. Although some gills are still being found suspended over deep water and also congregating in good numbers on mid-lake humps right out on the weed edges there. As far as gills go, no matter where you find them, you're gonna be using spikes, waxworms on an ice jig, redworms on a little bit bigger jig. You might find some crappies out there on a weed edge as well. If you're targeting crappies, crappie minnows or small minnow-shaped plastics on a jig or under a bobber is a pretty safe bet. The perch front remains quiet. I hear about fish occasionally being picked up here and there, but nothing impressive and certainly not consistent. But weed lines are a good place to start, and it sounds like redworms have been working pretty well. Largemouth bass anglers have been doing well up shallow with any number of presentations, but again, with the weeds being thick, weedless plastics and topwater frogs are going to be your best bet there. Smallmouth bass are being found up shallow early and late in the day, but tend to hang out deeper when in the middle of the day. So there again, any number of slower artificial presentations will work, but drop shotting, slip bobbering, and jigging a fathead minnow or a black-tailed chub or a crawler can be super effective for those fish. It sounds like the walleye bite around town's picked up a bit from last week. Walleye fishing from shore has been tough all summer, though, with all the weeds and water temps and now the algae. But I have heard about some fish being picked up at night just recently, if you can keep the weeds, mostly floating weeds, being a problem on some of the break walls and stuff like that. If you're in a boat, though, work weed lines on rocky shoreline breaks near shallow flats during the day and move up on those shallow flats during low light periods. Otherwise, work weed edges or right in the weeds on mid-lake humps. It's been producing some pretty good action for some folks lately, but still kind of slow for what I think it should be for this time of year. And folks with the fancy electronics tell me the walleye are out there. They're just not don't seem to be biting as much. No matter where you fish for walleye on the live bait side of things, night crawlers are still working, but like I said, we're seeing a switch to minnows now too. If it's pike you're after, they'll grab just about any lure you throw at them, and our large shiners or pike suckers are a pretty safe bet on the live bait side of things. Muskie action's been kind of slow recently. It's at least picked up after the hot summer we had, but and the screen algae's either keeping anglers off or anglers are blaming it for the slow bite. But I was talking to Noah Humfeld. He had a 3-fish muskie day the other day, so they are out there and they are chewing. As for trout, area creeks are in good shape, and the trout are looking mostly for hoppers. At least that's what I've had good luck on. And we'll talk about more trout stuff at the end of the report. Get into a little more detail here up on Cherokee. We've got a lot of weeds up there, but a topwater frog or weedless plastics can get you some bass and a lot of small pike up there. Same thing, if you can launch a boat at the school road, launch here and get out in the channel where there's fewer weeds, you'll find bass, pike, and occasional panfish. At the 113 bridge, nice mixed bag down there. A lot of panfish I've been hearing about, but some walleye and bass, occasional catfish or pike coming through there. Most of the catfish have moved out into the lake, just like I've been saying all summer, just kind of cruising around, picking up whatever. Folks are doing well on crawlers, and stink bait, and folks are starting to switch to cut bait now too, and cut bait will be the dominant bait as we get into some cooler fall temps here. Otherwise, the water has a brown tint to it lately because of that algae bloom I mentioned. Weed lines are probably your best bet to find a nice mixed bag of fish, especially bluegills, but I am still hearing about good numbers of gills on mid-lake humps like Dunn's Bar, Brearley Bars, Second Point, Commodore Bars, anything that comes up out of some deep water. And you find a weed edge, you'll probably find some gills. You might find some crappies on weed edges too. I don't hear about many, and the perch remains slow. Folks finding fish here and there, mostly on weed edges, but I do hear about some fish out to as deep as 20 feet of water. Largemouth bass are up active shallow in the weeds. Smallmouth are being found in rocky shoreline areas, a little deeper during the day. Like I said in the intro, walleye have been in a slightly better mood, but fish weed lines on rocky shoreline breaks or mid-lake humps, and you'll likely find some fish. Hopefully they start turning on here a little bit more soon. Pike are pretty much everywhere. I'd focus on a weed edge on Mendota. The Tenney Breakwall has been seeing a nice mixed bag of fish down here. Smallmouth, walleye, pike, some decent bluegills I've been hearing about, and the occasional gar. I saw somebody hooked a nice gar the other day. The Tenney Park Lock and Dam. Fishing over there has been spotty, but every now and then, every so often, I guess, a couple times a week, I hear about some great days down there. I hear about some bad days for bluegills. There's bass in the river, and the walleyes will start pushing up here too as we get into fall. The area where the river dumps out into Lake Monona is usually a pretty productive spot, but otherwise around the lake, weed edges are all you're going to need to know. That is, if you could find a weed edge, the green water is pretty green from what I hear. So finding a weed edge can be difficult unless, of course, you have electronics. But concentrate on weed edges. You'll find a nice mixed bag of fish with a ton of bluegills out there. Other spots for bluegills are mid-lake humps like the rock pile down here and the mid-lake bar off the Monona Terrace. They are getting gills at the Monona Terrace during the day. And the crappie bite over there in the evenings has been pretty good. And a few walleyes being picked up after dark. Otherwise, Lake Winger's Monona Bay. Super duper green. It sounds like it's really gross, but the weed cutters have been in there, could provide for some good casting, and of course there's bluegills and stuff in there. And it won't be long before the crappies start pushing into the triangles and along the tracks over here. I'll keep you posted on that. Lake Winger's got a bunch of tiny gills, a good bass population. I don't know how green it is. I haven't heard, but the weeds are pretty thick in there. And of course there's muskies in there, but fishing for muskies requires long casts and treble hooks and that's not a good combination when you got a lot of weeds. But muskie bite out on Lake Monona has been slow. I haven't heard many reports, but it's been super hot, and algae blooms suck, and so who knows? That'll pick up soon, though. Same thing down in Upper Mud. Green down there. The weed line down at the dredge hole is a pretty safe bet. The weed flats around the dredge hole can be good for bass. North end of Lake Wabisa, same thing, super green down there from what I hear, and it really just depends on the wind. So if you got a west wind, I'd stay off the east end of the lake because it's pushing all that algae over there. But drive around and try to figure it out. It's going to be good in some areas and worse in others. But yeah, pretty green conditions. Good bluegill bite though. I hear about in a little bit deeper water, 20 plus feet of water. Same thing, some walleyes hanging out deeper. I hear about a lot down here on the Babcock Bible Camp area, also up around Hog Island. With those fish hanging out a little bit deeper. Haven't heard much on crappies or anything lately. Down on Kegonsa, same thing. Green water down there. Depends on where the wind's blowing and how gross it is. I have heard about decent action still on weed edges and some action for suspended fish again. Just this last week I talked to a couple guys who did well out there that way. Otherwise, the Rock Rivers got catfish at Indian Ford and more so up at Jefferson that I hear about. Koshkonong online tells me that I haven't heard any specific reports. And I don't know if the lake's green down here. I know this one turns green pretty quick too. But walleye and white bass trolling mostly kind of up here on this kind of northeast end of the lake. I have heard about crappie and white bass in the Fort Atkinson area in the river. But like I said, the Jefferson Dam, nice mixed bag of fish, and especially a good catfish bite over there. Catfish bite continues to be good in Beaver Dam. If you want to catch some eaters, you can fill a cooler with them, although I think the limit is 5, so not the biggest cooler in the world, but they're good eater-sized fish. And haven't heard much off Devil's Lake recently. The Wisconsin River is running kind of low right now, but that's typical this time of year. It's just under 6,000 feet, so actually that's pretty average for this time of year. A lot of sandbars out there, and if you're focusing on the river itself, downstream of any dam, you're going to want to be looking to sandbars, downstream side of sandbars, downstream of pylons on bridges, outside bends on some of these rivers. Anywhere that you're going to find even just a little bit more water, you'll likely find fish. Wood along the shoreline is good if you're looking for bass, and we will start to see smallmouth bass focusing more on chasing big schools of shad and other bait fish. And if you see that crash of those smallmouth busting fish on the surface, just cast right in there with anything flashy or minnow shapy, and you'll likely hook up on some fish. So otherwise, the dams are hot right now with a lot of nice mixed bag of fish. Of course, sturgeon season is still happening. I reposted this video that Ancient Art of Fishing made the other day. He caught a giant down there, 65-inch sturgeon, real big fish. Of course, he gets his bait here at DNS and always gives us a plug, which I appreciate. But yeah, great job, John. That's his PB sturgeon. But I've been seeing several fish over 60 inches online, and folks tell me about fish they're getting. So that's always good to see. But you know, it's the same thing all the way up and down the river. Any dam you can hit, you're going to find a great mixed bag of fish, and catfish, sturgeon, all kinds of stuff swimming around out there. Lake Wisconsin's got decent panfish bite in the shallow bays still, decent bass bite along shore. Sounds like the walleye and the walleye bite's been a little bit slow recently, but and the size has been a bit of an issue. But otherwise, up and down the river, like I said, smallmouth are going to be pretty active here, chasing schools of bait around. Look to a little deeper water to find walleyes. Dams, Castle Rock, Pete and Well are great. I haven't heard much on the bite on Pete and Well, but I'm sure they're getting walleyes up there. Over to the river, not a lot going on that I've heard. I did see the Clemens Barge folks posted. A few folks are getting some nice walleyes, otherwise a nice mix of river fish. Otherwise, yeah, the salmon, not so much happening out on the big lake anymore. Folks I know are jigging in the harbors and getting fish that way. And folks from shore are getting fish down here, you know, in Milwaukee and up and down the whole East Coast, Racine and Port Washington, all the way up to, you know, Manitowoc. So they're getting fish in the harbors, and it's an exciting time. I haven't heard much about fish pushing up the river. I was over in Milwaukee on Sunday and checked the flows. It was running kind of low. I didn't see any fish up, very few anglers, but all we need is just a little bit of rain, and we're going to get a big push come up. Maybe some cooler temps would help, and the salmon will start moving up there. And like I said, I got beads and stuff here in the shop, and that's always a very exciting time. And yeah, so I'll keep you posted on that because it's one of my favorite things to do with my boys. And then you got steelhead and brown trout coming in behind them, so I love fishing over there this time of year. Otherwise, as far as trout goes, like I said in the intro, streams are in great shape. Trout are in a great mood, bulking up for the spawn here. The hopper bite's been fantastic. I was out last Saturday and had a wonderful day, all on hoppers. As always, though, if you're on the spinning gear side of things, suspending or sinking jerk baits like husky jerks or countdowns from Rapala always work. Copy-sized tube jigs are great. Panther martins always catch trout. And if you're using live bait, it's hard to beat a redworm drifted through runs and tailouts. On the fly side of things, you know, small nymphs and stuff like beadhead, pheasant tails, caddis, scuds, woolly buggers will catch fish if they're not looking up. But really, for my money, it's all about terrestrials this time of year, and especially there's all the flies I was just talking about. Terrestrials like ants and beetles and stuff will catch fish, but it's full-on hopper time. So tie on a hopper, swing in here if you don't have any. I'll point you in the right direction, and get out there because the bite has been awesome. I think that pretty much does it for the report. I do want to thank you for tuning in. Post your comments and catches below. Love to see those. Do feel free to call the shop at 241-4225 if you want us to expand on anything. Otherwise, I wish you luck out there. I thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.